What up, everybody? Welcome back to Music Blueprint. And today we are going to teach you how to book your first tour. We're going to give you the step-by-step process on how to do this. I think a lot of you guys know we've been talking about how we're about to release our program, which is, I think, at the point of doing this video, it should be out. So if you're interested in being a part of our program and learning how to do this, and we give you way more tools in this booking a tour area in our specific program. This is kind of almost the surface level of just allowing you to do it yourself, but we actually give you email lists and all these different things that you'll need to book your first tour. This is just giving you a 10-step process on how to have a successful tour, but you're having to find the information yourself. So let's get into it. Number 1, determine what dates you want to go out on tour. You need at least 2 to 3 months. So don't say, oh, well, I want to do a tour 2 weeks from now. It could happen. Probably not. You need a lot of time to prepare to go out on tour. You need to practice. You need to create merch items. You need to promote for the shows, all these different things. Now, if you're calling a tour like you just playing in your hometown, that's probably a little bit more manageable. You could play 3 dates in your hometown or whatever and promote those areas, and that's fine. But I'm talking about you're going to a city that you're not from, and you're trying to do a 10-date run in some area that you've played very few times or you need to promote for or whatever. So you got to determine what dates those are, and preferably I would say 3 months, but minimum 2 months. Okay. It's just once I get through all these points, you're going to understand why. Number 2, determine where and what specific dates you want to be the where. So let's say you want to go on tour in Nashville and Chicago and I don't know, Arkansas and Kentucky and this whole kind of South Midwest area. And you want to go on tour for 2 weeks and you want at least 10 dates. You need to determine what areas you are going to be on those specific dates. Because when you send an email to people, they need to know what dates are you looking at, right? So you need to kind of block out. It doesn't have to be like a hard deadline of if somebody says, hey, we actually don't have the date you asked for, but we do have this date available. You're still flexible in that. So it doesn't have to be so rigid, but you want a general idea because you want to be able to, when you're driving or flying or whatever, you want to be able to have that kind of mapped out, right? And so, maybe your tour starts with the first 3 days you're in Nashville, the next 3 days you're in Kentucky, then the following 3 days after that you go to Chicago, and then you travel down and you hit Arkansas, and then boom, you're back in Nashville, right? That might be your 2-week stint. But again, when you're emailing people, you need to have that figured out because you're going to email people the dates that you're looking at and the dates that you're looking at on their calendar. Okay. So determine where, and it could be 1 city, it could be 5 cities, it could be however long. When I came out of school, the first tour I booked was 2 months long. Okay. So, and I figured out how to get from Nashville all the way to California and to Northern California. And I hit things all along the way up to Northern California, did a bunch of dates up there. And then I hit things on the way back as well, which is kind of nice because let's say if you've never played in a city before and you hit that spot twice, if people really liked you, you're like, hey, I'm actually playing here in 3 weeks. And you're already promoting for the next show that you're going to play on your way back. So it's nice when you hit the same route or a similar route. Number 3, now you've determined what dates, you've determined the where, you determined the where on what date. Now you need to find the venues in that area and find the contact information. I like to be organized. I put everything in a spreadsheet, and I have in my spreadsheet the city, the name of the venue, or I might start with the name of the venue, the city, the name of the person of contact, their email, and maybe something else that I like, any other information that I would maybe need to like remember things. I keep that on the spreadsheet so it can be organized. And also, if I did like that place and I did like that venue and the crowd was great, I can also revisit it. So maybe in one of your columns, you say, did I like it? Yes or no? And then if there's a yes and you're like, I'm going through New Mexico, you're like, what was the name of that venue again? You can go to your spreadsheet and be like, oh yeah, it was Meow Wolf, or like whatever it is, right? You need to find the emails of contact, and usually it's a general manager, or it's sometimes a music director, or, there's different names. Sometimes you go to the website of that venue and they don't have an email, and then the phone number they have is like disconnected. So then you got to go online back to Google and be like, what's the phone number for this pub or this music venue or whatever? Then you find that and you call in, and then hopefully somebody there will answer and give you the contact of the person that you need. This is especially the case for certain cities that are very close-knit about their community. Like a great example would be Tulsa, Oklahoma. It took me a long time to find the people in Tulsa, Oklahoma that I needed to contact to be able to play a show in Tulsa. It was not just me contacting the people on the websites, because nobody answered the people on the websites. No number was the same. It was like the number of the guy who used to work there 20 years ago. That guy's like dead, and I can't contact that person anymore. So like I had to like go to Tulsa specifically, spend time there, find out about their music nights, find out about, their music venues or whatever, and then slowly started building contacts and connections with people until where like somebody was like, oh yeah, this is the person's number. And I was like, oh great. Just contacted that person immediately. So sometimes it takes a little extra effort, but once you find it, you need to save it in some way. Like in my phone, I save everybody's name with their city that they live in. So, again, when you're on tour, you're meeting so many people all the time. And it's like, how am I supposed to remember like every person's name? So I'll just be like, oh, what was that person's name? And I remember where they live. So I'll be like, oh, New Mexico. And then I'll go New Mexico and I'll be like, oh yeah, that person said to contact them because they do an open mic night. Maybe they're doing it when I'm out there. So I message that person. See what I'm saying? So again, it's all about organization, and it's all about having things in an area that you can refer back to it. Number 4, create an EPK. Now, if you don't know what an EPK is, it stands for Electronic Press Kit. It's basically your musician's resume that you send to booking agents so that they can book you in places, and it gives a bunch of information about yourself, links to your social profiles, what's your draw in that area, all of that kind of stuff. We do a whole video on an EPK, which you can check out here. Actually, it's probably on this side here. And we also, in our program, walk you through, we give you a whole template on every step that you have to fill out to have like a really solid and sophisticated looking EPK. You can also research it online. There's tons of things of like articles and stuff that say what's in an EPK. But basically, you need to have this created so that you can send it to all the booking agents. So after you find all those emails and stuff, what are you sending them, right? You're sending them your EPK in an email, and it's like a 1-page resume. Once you have this created, it's pretty simple because now you can just use it for everything. So you're just like modifying little things like here and there. You might modify, what dates you're playing, or you might modify like once you get updated articles, you modify that. Once you kind of have it, it's great. But the initial of like getting it together is not a hassle, but it takes a little bit of time. You want it to like read nice and look nice and blah, 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 blah. But once you have it and it's done, and you just like update it like, every year, or like update it as you get more cool things about yourself or whatever. So number 5, now you're going to send out your EPK in an email to every person on the email list you created. So when you were in your spreadsheet on Excel and you got all these emails from people, now you're sending your EPK to all those people. And you should say in the email, hi, my name is so-and-so. I'm a pop artist from, or I'm a folk artist from X, Y, and Z. Would love to play at your venue. I saw on your calendar. Make sure you check out their calendar before you email them. Check out, are those dates available? Don't just blind email them and be like, hey, I want to play here. And they're like, well, actually, those dates are filled. We can't, Make sure to check their calendar and make sure those dates are available. And then say, hey, I would love to, I saw you at an opening on this day. I'd love to play here. Blah, 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 blah. And then here's all my information below. And then all your EPK stuff is below, where it has your socials, where they can check you out, videos to you singing or your band performing or whatever. And you send that out. You should get like a response within 2 to 4 weeks. If you don't, you need to follow up. And that's point 6, follow up after 2 weeks. But back to point 5, you should get about 10 to 40%, 10% to 40% of a response. Sometimes you don't get a response because people aren't interested, or they already know that they had already booked that date, so they just don't respond. Or, maybe it's no longer a venue and you didn't know that because you don't live in that area. There's a bunch of different reasons. But you should get anywhere from 10% to 40%, which you should keep in mind, because however many emails that you collected, that's probably how many responses you're going to get. So if you only collected 100 emails, again, that's only 10 to 40 emails. And if you're on a 2-week tour, you're like, ooh, is that enough emails for me to get in return? I might need to send 200 out. You see what I'm saying? So you just keep it all in perspective on where your talent is and all of that stuff. Because, if you're new in the game and you're not as talented yet and you haven't gotten the experience yet, you might not get as many responses in return. So you need to accommodate for how many emails you're going to get in return. So point 6 after this is follow up after 2 weeks with each person. So, again, the email might have got lost in the shuffle. Don't automatically assume that they're like, oh, they're not interested in me because of this. Don't let your insecurities play into it. Just be like, no, people get busy. I get busy and I miss emails. Why wouldn't somebody else, right? Follow up with them after 2 weeks. If they still don't respond, okay, they still don't respond. And maybe you put in your Excel sheet, did no response. Or they might respond and say, hey, actually that date's not available, but we have this date available, and so on and so forth. Number 7, start plugging your dates into your calendar with all the info. A venue, as you start getting your dates, you need to put on your calendar, oh, I got this date booked, because you don't want to overlap. Because if you overlap and you agree to something and then you're like, oh my God, I messed up, I can't do that, yada, 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 then, you're in trouble. So you need to, as things come in, put them on the calendar immediately with all the info, which I mean, how much you're getting paid, the address of the venue, the time that you're playing, how early do you need to be there for your load-in? Is there specific load-in instructions? You want all of that in your calendar. Google Calendar is really great because you can put all that information in there. And sometimes there's people have specific attire things. You just want all that information in there so that you can immediately read it and you know what's up. Number 8, 1 month out, you need to start promoting for the show. 1 month out. That means if you're on a 2-week leg, you need to promote for all of them. So you need to find creative ways to promote. You need to create a flyer that has all the stuff on there. Maybe start figuring out is there a local artist in the area that I can link up with? And maybe I let them sing 1 or 2 songs as an opener and then they bring people into the show. Maybe there's a local artist event that you could be like, hey, I would love to play a couple songs at this artist event and promote. I'm playing a show the day after. Could I come do that? Start figuring out people that you can connect with. Start figuring out what's something in that area that people really love and be a part of that community and be like, hey, I'm playing a show. I saw you're in New Mexico. All these different things. Snapchat is great with geolocation. You can start figuring out things with that. You can link up with the venue, say, hey, I'm going to send you guys a flyer. Can you put it up in the bar? I mean, you need to start promoting heavily. It needs to be on the forefront of your mind, because if you've never played that area before and you don't have a booking agency to already promote your stuff, you're it. The buck stops with you. So if you want to start making money on this thing, you got to really promote. Okay. And this is also the time that you need to create things for people to buy at your concert. So that means merch, stickers. Maybe you have something specific that's like specific to your brand. Like I knew one artist, they did hot sauce. Like hot sauce was a big thing for them. They promoted hot sauce. They had their own hot sauce brand that they sold at their concert and people loved it. Like you need to start creating all of those things so that it's created and it's being shipped to you and it's arriving before you leave for tour. You don't want to have to change shipping and all of that stuff. It needs to be done and set up. Number 9, during this whole month and 2 months, you need to be practicing as much as possible. There is nothing worse than an artist promoting themselves and being like, I'm so amazing. And then they get to the show and they're unprepared. You will never be asked to play the show again. Okay. So you want to have your best foot forward. The best thing to do is undersell, over deliver. So you need to make sure that you're practicing heavily with your band. You guys are locked in. There's no question about who's playing where, nothing. You guys need to have your set locked, your 9 songs or your 15 songs or however long your shows are. They could be an hour, 2 hour, 3 hours, whatever. You need to have all those songs locked in and ready to go. Okay? So that when you get on tour, I would even say 2 weeks before tour, you guys are feeling confident. It doesn't matter if necessarily you didn't promote too much. You know that you're like, we're going to crush it. And even if there's only a limited audience there, they're going to come back to another show, right? And they're going to follow us on social media. So you guys need to practice during these whole 2 months of you booking shows, of you promoting for shows, everything. It is so, so important. You really need to leave a good impression on people. Last one is while you're at the show, and this is so key. This is like my bonus tip. This is what got people to always ask me to come back, is run up the bar tab. And I don't mean you run up the bar tab. I would suggest not drinking at your show, but whatever, if you need if you're a person that likes, alcohol and stuff like that. I mean, not that I don't like alcohol, but I'm just saying sometimes that ruins your voice and stuff like that and you don't sing as well. But get the audience to run up the bar tab. Sometimes I would play shows and I'd never played there before. And it was just like, I just didn't get as many people here that I wanted. But you know what? Those 10 to 20 people that were there, I was like, yo, when you drink, I sound better. So go get another drink at the bar. Like I ran up that bar tab with my audience and they loved it. So it's really, really important to be conscientious that, again, this is a business and people are out here trying to make money, okay? So when you aren't for sure going to like bring all the people that you need, or even if you do, if you're making that bar make a ton of money when you show up, they're gonna ask you back and they're gonna be willing to help you more promote the next time you're there. So you want to run up that bar tab. Think of little phrases that are funny to get people to drink. Be like, hey, see everybody's drinking, or I see everybody's drinks are getting low. Why don't you run back there? We're going to play a little interlude for the next, minute and a half. Go back there and go get another drink or get us some food or whatever and promote it that way. So that's my bonus tip. All right, that is basically it. Those are like 10 seriously, like amazingly solid steps on how to book a tour. This is the way that I booked all my tours for years and years. I did like for 3 years straight, I booked like 125 shows a year, made a full-time income. It was my thing. I'm still booking 50 to 75 shows a year. And I use a lot of these techniques, even in a bigger sense. Maybe if you're just starting out, this is your solid foundation. But even in the medium to like upper level, I use a lot of these things. So make sure to implement them into your next tour and how you're booking your tour, because this is going to make you money for sure, 100%. Hope you learned a lot, and we will see you next week. Peace.